Good morning. Welcome to Grow Your Strength. I'm going to take us through a 45-minute session, and I hope you enjoy it. So we'll start today with rolling out the upper back. If you don't happen to have a roller, then you can just lie on your back and just relax and do some breathing for the next minute or so. Taking the roller carefully to about the shoulder blade area. I don't like to go lower than the edge of my rib cage. Just rolling onto your back and then supporting your head, gently lifting the hips off the floor. And you just do some small passes, sort of pushing and pulling through your feet, and get a gauge of the intensity. It shouldn't feel too sensitive. If it does, you want to stop, put your hips down, and just kind of gently start to work out the tension by having the feeling of intensity no more than about a 4 out of 10 is a good gauge. So if it's really sensitive, keep the hips on, and if you're good with it, we'll do about 10 more passes, just gently working through that area. Like I said, no lower than the edge of your rib cage, just below your shoulder blades, and then up as high as you can comfortably get without kind of rolling into the neck. Excellent. All right, so that's rolling the upper back. And we'll put the rollers to the side, and I'm going to do my breathing in the face up position today. Just taking some time to line up the posture. You can have your knees bent or your legs extended, as long as that feels okay on the back. If you have a big curve in your back, you might want to just work on adjusting the hips and just trying to line up the rib cage a little bit there. Rolling the head side to side and drawing the chin down to the collarbone. Just relaxing the posture into the floor. Try to let go of any tension that you might have still hanging on up in here. Do we all have a little of that from time to time? But just try to wiggle out the shoulders and relax into the floor, taking some deep breaths in and out through your nose if you can do that comfortably. For the last few breath cycles, see if you can take a slightly bigger inhale and a long exhale followed by a little sigh of relief. One more of those. Excellent. All right, so we're going to take it to hands and knees and roll through the back a little bit with the flexion and extension. So got myself with my toes tucked, hands underneath my shoulders, and I'm just spreading my fingers so I can distribute the weight through my hands and not just at the base of my wrist. As I round up, I gently let my head fall down. And just gently push the knees away from the hands so you get a little bit more stretch response. And then starting in the low back, dropping the front side to the floor, going into what we call extension, dropping the chest, pulling the shoulder blades together and looking up. And if you wanted to, you could try to pull your hands and knees a little bit towards each other just to change the way you feel this through your joints and through your back. So rounding through each section of your back. That takes some thought because it's easy to go a little faster than that. Pushing the hands and knees away from each other. And then one more time through extension, dropping the front side down, gently pulling the hands and knees together and looking up. Okay, so we'll move from here to half kneeling, and in the half kneeling position, I just want to take some time to level out my hips and kind of get my legs straight. knee in front of hip. If you're having trouble balancing in this position, then you can take your front foot a little bit wider, okay? But if you can set yourself up here, this works. Now, what about balancing the hips this way and this way? So get tall on your down knee posture. And from here, you can start to pulse the knee over the midfoot and getting a stretch through the front of the hip and the thigh area, just a few pulses to that range that you can get to without having to lose your posture here. So no big arch in the back. Settling yourself back up into the floating position over your knee. We'll go through some shoulder work, taking the hands and spreading the fingers, starting with the palms facing each other. Go slower than you'd like to, and just start to take the hands up. Once you reach your sort of sticking point up here, you're going to have to rotate your palms back, and then you can push your hands behind you. You're trying to find the range of motion through your shoulders that your arms will take you to. So I'm pushing my arms back, and then I'm bringing them all the way down to my sides with my palms out. You can take your hands up the small of your back, wiggle your elbows a little bit, get nice and tall in your posture again, and then slowly rewind this move. Turning the palms back to face each other, and then slowly bringing your hands back down to your sides. Okay, I'm going to throw in an exercise for the knee and ankle here before we switch sides. I'm keeping my knee over my heel, and I'm just turning my foot inside and out, getting some movement in the bones below the knee and through the ankle and foot. About 5 times. Spreading the toes, getting a little motion as lotion down in that area. Okay, great. So now we'll switch sides. Take the time to level out those hips again. Front and back, tall in the posture. Knee tracks over the midfoot. How does this side feel compared to the other side? It feels a little tighter. We could certainly address that through rolling techniques or a little longer of a stretch with more hold. If you have some big imbalances, it's just something to take note of that you can work on as you go through some body maintenance through the week. Okay, makes sense. Getting tall again, we'll do the same with the shoulders, spreading the fingers, trying not to lean back, just tracing where your body will let you move the arms today. Getting the shoulder joints primed and ready for some more movement and perhaps some load. Lacing the hands up the small of the back, give those elbows a wiggle. Get tall again. Continue the deep breathing if you can as you bring this back. Good. Slower than we'd like to go, but getting good benefit. Okay, back to the foot. Keeping the knee over the heel. Turning the foot in and out. About 5 times. All right, now we'll warm up the hip by coming onto hands and knees, finding the middle ground of that flexion extension of your back. So just try to get things feeling kind of centered and the weight distributed equally. You can gently tuck the back toes. And we're going to take one knee off and circle the knee around, tracing where the hip will let you go without changing the angles through your back. So try not to dip the back into a big curve. Keeping the weight evenly distributed through the hands and not letting your head drop is the challenge for the core. It's one circle in each direction. And then switch sides. If your wrists Need a little deload, that's totally fine. Shake them out, reset. Side two. Great, now we're gonna take a little time to work more on the hip mobility and come back and recheck that. So taking the feet a little wider than hips, and my arms are just behind me to support a nice tall posture. I'm just letting the knees fall to one side and then just taking a moment to let the knees sink a little bit more to the floor. As you go side to side, if you don't take that extra time to sort of sink into your end range, right, it would just be easy to do this, but now I'm really trying to get a little deeper into the hips. This hip, knee in, internal rotation. This hip, external rotation. So thinking about warming up and priming the hip joints for the movements that we have ahead. Here's the 90-90 position, about a 90-degree angle through the knees, adjusting your torso so you're upright and you can use your arms to lean forward. And as you change the angle of your torso, so chest to knee, chest to mid calf or heel, and lean into it, probably feeling a bit more of a stretch through your front hip. Okay, so give yourself an opportunity to try some different angles. And then we'll pop down onto the elbow and take a look at the internal rotation of the back hip. Just gently taking the foot off the floor. You might not feel you have quite as much range as I do, but I've been doing this for a while, so pretty good internal hip mobility. But just take your time to try and lift and lower. You can certainly hold a lift for a breath cycle and see if you can just squeak out a little bit more internal rotation on your exhale. After about 10 of those, we'll come over to the other side and reset up the 90-90 position, just adjusting your hips, trying to keep your back nice and long as you pulse through this side. I like thinking about a roadmap to my body. How does it feel today compared to one side to the other, compared to the other day? Every day, your body has sort of a different mapping, movement map of where things are. What's the integrity and quality of your joint range of motion, and your brain has a way of restricting movements if it doesn't think that it's safe to do so. And so we just want to work on the health of our body, our joints, our tendons, our ligaments, our muscles, so that we can have improved quality movement, improved health, really. So here's my internal on this side. I'll try one of those holds. I think where I was going with that was, this is the kind of work that warms up the joints and improves your movement map. Excellent. Now I said we'd check the hip cars, so let's do that. And after that little extra work on the hips, internal and external, just take one circle again per side and see how things feel compared to the first time you did it. Feel a little bit more smooth? Do you feel you have a little bit more range? Definitely feels a little smoother for me. Okay, switching sides, reconnecting through the shoulders and the posture of the head. Breathe. Switch that up. And there we have it. Okay, so from here we'll come to standing, and I'm going to start with some staggered stance rotations. So what I mean by that is just taking one foot in front of the other, not too far apart, taking the arms across the chest and rotating from the hips up. So you're going to turn and look behind you, trying not to spill or bleed with the hips. So keep the pelvis to the wall in front of you. Just nice and gentle as you rotate each way, 2 to 3 times before you switch the front foot. And play around with the breath on this. Typically, I would have cued inhale here and exhale as you rotate. But lately, I've been trying to do at least one rep where I inhale as I rotate and exhale, come back to center. Inhale. Exhale back to center. I better switch that front foot or we'll be here all day. Okay. That'll be okay with me, but maybe not you. All right, so that change in the breath cycle. Now I'll go back to inhaling forward and exhaling on the rotation. Let's see whether that changes things for you. Isn't the body cool? Sometimes it just works that way. You get a little bit more when you ask for it differently. So finish off your last rotation. I'll just check the program and see where we're going from here. All right, calf raises with the small ball between the heels. Okay, so it would take some time to put the ball down between the heels. Check that your feet are straight. Some folks are going to need balance support for this, so you could go to a wall or a piece of furniture. When you're ready on your exhale, just slowly, gently squeeze the ball as you lift the heels. Try and connect with your toes, and then come back down. Maybe I need a balance support today. Oh, some days are better than others. I'll give you my rear view. All right, here we go. So exhale, squeeze the ball, get into the toes. Look, mom, no hands. And then down. Let's call this up to 6 reps. Check that your feet are straight. Slowly come up, try and get some control through your feet. Having one of those days. And then bring it down. Single leg balance reaches are next. So now that we've kind of warmed up the feet with that, take some time to just roll your ankle, connect with your foot, try to create a connection with your arch, and then load up into your front foot. When you're ready, take a breath in, and we'll go into a single leg balance reach. Now, if this feels too unsteady for you to work in the air, bring yourself over to a piece of furniture and just lightly have a finger touch reach on the furniture. Here you can work at squaring the hips and the shoulders. Chin is in line. You can gently lift your hands off the furniture and try to come up unsupported. About 2 to 3 balance reaches per side, getting that good strong connection through your base foot. If you breathe in as you reach, you'll find that that intra-abdominal pressure does help to stabilize your pelvis and make it easier. I'm breathing here through my reach, but I'm keeping a little bit of bracing, just a little bit of connection through my midsection. Spread those fingers, reach the heel to the wall behind you. Try to fully extend this back leg knee. I always like to say, if you have a good balance reach, hang out here If it's not a very good repetition, then don't count it. Okay, we're going to go into a high arm plank. And before I get down to the floor to show you that, if doing a plank on the floor isn't where you're at strength-wise, then take it to a wall or a piece of furniture, take your feet back, and try to connect in through a plank position. Little activation of the hip muscles. The further the feet are away from the wall or furniture, the harder this is going to be. You can play with different hand widths, which is something that I had in this program to create a high arm plank, and try to hold the plank for about 3 breath cycles and then rest. So here's my hands under my shoulders, back is set, I step back, and now I'm going to give myself an opportunity to breathe 3 full breath cycles. In and out through the nose, nice and deep if you can. When you're ready for that break, you can flip your palms up and just gently give your wrists a little bit of stretch, changing the angles of your fingers. And now here's a different plank. I'm going to take my hands closer together and I'm going to take my feet wider and then create that sort of pillar of strength. Go through another 3 breath cycles. And again, this could be done from the wall or the elevated surface, still doing the hand and the leg change with the widths. Okay, this time I'll circle my wrists a few times. And we'll do one more where I'm going to take the hands wider than my shoulders, so a little wider than I might normally go. And let's go narrower feet together. Here we go. To move my weight forward over my hands. Nice deep breathing. And there we have it. Okay, second exercise, long seated band row. Broke open a new band this morning. I used to get these supplied in green, and now I have sunshine yellow, so that's good. Upright position, and you want to adjust the tension so that when you row the elbows to the sides, your elbows finish at the sides. We're looking for about 12 reps. I'll show you from here. You don't want to bring the elbows too far back and change the kind of connection through your shoulder. The way that I would like to see it is just good amount of tension where you're squeezing your shoulder blades together, but the elbows finish at the sides. It's a little hard to see with black on black, but I think you get it. Nice and tall, looking straight ahead. Okay, from here we'll go onto our back and take the band with just a light amount of tension. I've supported my posture, and now I'm going to bring my arms overhead. Just kind of feel out where the back of the hands can reach to the ground. If you're struggling to get the back of the hands onto the ground, take your grip width wider. Be mindful that you're keeping a connection through your rib cage. You're not going into a big arch of your back as you bring the band over. And then from here, we'll take it into a set of bridges with the option to take that band and just lace it over the crease of your hips, anchoring your hands on the floor. Adjust for a bridge, lifting your hips up and creating some tension through your hips, and then release on the floor. 6 to 10 of these. If the band tension doesn't feel so good for some reason on your back, then just put the band to the side and bridge up without that added resistance. If you don't bridge up high enough and you see how there's a bend here, that's not full hip extension. So you're going to want to envision a line between the knee joint, the hip joint, and the armpit. If you go higher than this, you might start feeling this in your back, and I wouldn't suggest that you do that. Okay, so you don't want to go higher than your full hip extension here. All right, so rep ranges are always approximate, but you can go for 10 to 12 of those. Last exercise in this set, we do the get up. And in this program, I've advanced the get up to a lift from the high arm. I think I'll put this mat down. So starting in our get up position, lying on your back. It's always the same arm up as knee that's bent. So here I go. Right arm up, right knee bent. I'm kind of just connecting my posture to the floor. I take my left side out on a bit of an angle, and you have to work over time to see what the right angle is so that when you take an easy roll to your elbow, you feel like your shoulder can be positioned and you're not in a shrug. Take some time to press up to the tall sit position and adjust the hand to a place where you could take the weight between your foot and your hand and bridging up. So here we go. As you come up, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. Slowly come back down to your hip. Try to roll back to your elbow without that shrug through the shoulder, and then roll way back to the floor. Okay, I would say 2 of these per side. So after you've done that first one, reset up your core. And here we go. Elbow, hand. Do you need to pull the hand in to feel a good connection as you bridge up? 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, Mississauga if you're Canadian, down to the elbow, and all the way back down to the floor. Okay, so that is the get up to what we'd call the high bridge with a hold, makes it harder. So switch it up. Remember, we've primed the hips, we've primed the shoulders for movement. This is a body weight exercise at this point. We're not loading with weight overhead at this. You could if you wanted to, but I'm not today. Bringing the hand in, coming up, making sure everything feels good. Let's go 2 Mississauga, 3 Mississauga, and then down to the hip, down to the elbow. Watch this shrug and roll away gently back down to the floor. Number 2, easy roll, up, lift, spread those fingers, distribute the weight through your whole hand. 3 Mississauga sippy, and then down, and here, and all the way to the floor. Good. Okay, let's go through this set again. It started with the planks. So different hand positions. You're going to try and hold the different hand positions for 3 breath cycles. And the easiest, right, would be hands underneath your shoulders, feet a little wider, so you've got a good base of support. So as you change the hand positions or foot position to be narrower, this is going to change the angles and become a little harder to hold. For those of you that are doing it off of an elevated surface, or if your wrists are bothering you, you could consider a wall with your elbows bent, so an elbow plank to the wall. You can still change the width of your feet and your arms. And also, if the wrists are really sensitive, you could try these from the floor. I would just keep the elbows under the shoulders, but you could certainly take a wider stance with your feet and hold that. Okay, so some variations on the high arm plank. I'll do one more full one to give you guys some time to get at least 3 repetitions in. Good, taking some time to come out of that, and we'll grab those stretchy bands and set up for the long seated band row. Get nice and tall on your sit bones. Check that tension again so that elbows finish at the sides. And we're looking for about 12 repetitions. 3 more for me. Good. Okay. taking the band overhead, adjusting the posture. Remember I said wider is easier. Just let those arms sink into the floor. Feel out the shoulders and shoulder blades, low back and hips. Up to 6 passes. Just enjoying how that feels. Talking to your shoulders, overhead movement. Lots of good stuff here. Last week when I did this tape, the sound didn't work. Oh, there's technology when technology fails. And so I'm really hoping that this one works because I did like 3 testers, just a quick one, but still bridging now with the band as an option up to 12, getting that full hip extension, come up, connect with your feet, tension up through the hip muscles, down release. Then going into the get up to the high bridge, you could modify this down to just 1 per side, depending on how hard you felt it was for you today. Lining up, same arm up as needed bent. Easy roll to the elbow. Come up to the hand, spread the fingers and adjust the hand to the place where you feel you can have a good solid shoulder and lift up. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. Nice and controlled down, not letting the shoulder collapse on itself, and all the way back down. Okay, and then I'm going to switch over to the other side. Looking up. Keep your eye on your upper hand. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi. Down, elbow, down to the floor. Nice job. Okay, coming to standing. Let's do another set of the calf raises and the balance reaches, and then we'll get into our last set. So this mat disappears because it is a little easier on a firmer surface. That balance, balls between my feet. Notice I'm using the balance support right away first. Straight feet, looking ahead, gently squeezing the ball as I come up into my toes. And can I control the lower? Looks like my brain's figured out what to do here. Exhale as I come up. Gently squeeze and control the lower. Six to 10, just depending on the speed that you're going and the control that you're trying to figure this out. This is all just practice. So practice away. If you have bad reps, don't get frustrated, but remember not to count them. Okay. And then the balance reaches. Set up your foot, take a breath in, extend that back leg, pushing the heel to the wall behind you. Let's talk about the arms. I've changed my palms to face each other. My thumbs are up to the roof. Maybe I could lift my hands a little higher without getting into the neck. Just taking your time, trying to keep your hips and your shoulders square to the floor when you're in this hinged position. 2 to 3 per side, finishing that off. And I'll just look at our next set and have a sip of water. Okay. Next exercise is a curtsy lunge, and we're going to do 6 per side. You have some options to keep the weights at the hips, or a little harder would be to have the weights at the shoulders. With the curtsy lunge, you take 1 foot off, cross it and drop the back knee, keeping your hips square to the wall in front of you. Come back up to standing. You can drop the back knee a little or a lot, just depending on how that feels. And from the side, I want you to keep the front knee relatively close to the ankle. You don't want to go too far forward with that front knee. Just be mindful of how it feels on the body. What weight are you using? You can modify the reps, 6 to 10. Good. Okay, second exercise, I'm going to do a lateral raise for my shoulders. And I'm going to take 3-pound dumbbells to do this. So if you don't have weights that are on the lighter side like this for a lateral raise, you might want to start with just your fists. I could probably do this with 5 or 8-pound weights, but when you're starting out and you're trying to just build up what's going on in your shoulders, think about making sure that your body likes this exercise and that it's within a safe range. But certainly I'm all about loading when the body's ready. 6 to 10 reps of this lateral raise, staying out of the neck, right? Top of the shoulders are working hard. Okay, that's your lateral raise. The next up, I took a light band and I wanted to do where's my new band? There it is. Some external rotation. So elbows are bent, palms are up, very light tension. And I'm just doesn't have to be exact angles, like open just like this, right? Just play with the angles just a little. Stay out of the neck, keep the tension light. I'm just trying to open from the elbows, feeling it in my shoulders, back of my shoulders. Nice and easy, some gentle pull aparts, right? With the elbows bent. Okay, now we're going to squats. With the squat in this program, we're taking some load and finding our squat position. So feet can be straight or slightly turned out. Feet can be hip width or wider. Please don't squat in the exact same footprint every time, but make sure that it feels okay as you descend down through the ankles, knees, and hips. Pull yourself down. Whoops, forgot the 3, 2, 1. 1, stop, 2, stop, 3, stop, and press yourself back up. Okay, if going that slow is too hard for you, then just take that out of it. But see how you feel. Slowing down the lowering phase is going to make it harder, and you build a lot of strength in this lowering, or we call this technically the eccentric phase. So eccentric lowering phase. There we go. And back up. So there's a good example of loading up the squats. 2 10-pound dumbbells feels pretty darn good. Okay, then we're going to take some weights on the lighter side again to do some bicep curls and an overhead press. So with this exercise, I'd like you to try to just change the angle of the shoulders. So here I've got my palms facing my thighs, then I've got them at the sides, then I bring them up to my shoulders, and then I'm going to bring them into an overhead press. Bring it back down to my thighs, rotate in. If the weights are light enough, when you curl up, you don't always have to curl in a straight line, right? So you could take them just a little bit out. That felt okay. Then rotate the palms out and then go overhead. The shoulder is a very complex joint, and in that regard, we don't always want to be training in the exact same angles. So open. I tried it a little bit out. Then I rotated palms out, and then I pressed overhead. You could do this with body weight, light weights, or load it up. Here's a bicep curl with coming here and then coming in, and then more out, and then overhead. Okay, so all these angles challenge the shoulders to create some slightly different adaptations. As you go through this kind of work, be mindful that you're not standing in an extended posture. Okay, so you want to float your weight over. See how the knees push back? That's hyperextending of the knees. So when you go through work like this, make sure you take some time to set up, connect with your toes, float your weight over your feet. And then I'll do one more and then we'll move on. Here, I like the wide one actually, that felt really good. Here, and then overhead, back down. And here, okay. Now, our last exercise, we'll go through some lateral steps. And this is just taking some time to either tap and then crossover tap, or don't tap down and try to get some balance going on. And as you get your balance, if you're finding that that's quite easy, you could hold this and blink or close your eyes. We'll go for another 45 seconds, so you've got time to do some quicker ones if you want to get your heart rate up. Balance. A harder version on top of this might be to dip down and kind of bound over and try and catch yourself. Dip and catch. Whatever level you're at, it's good for you this morning. Got 15 more seconds. Last 5 seconds. And to slow this down, we'll go with just some balance taps while we say goodbye. Single leg, find your posture over your foot. Take the opposite hand to touch the knee. So I just got through one set of that last bit of strength. If I was watching the video and felt like I had the energy and the time to do that set again, I would just rewind it. And if this was all you had time for today, then just be good with that, because it all builds a stronger version of you. So thanks very much for joining me. I'll see you again next week. Have a great week. Bye.